You may have to.
Hey everybody, John and we have just been John, where's your hat? That's what they wanted to know the other day. I have to tell you, we have just been in darn near a panic. The equipment wasn't working. And I will say, as of 30 seconds ago, we got it to work. John was on a business meeting on the new, hey Carol, on the new website that we're working on. And I go, I'm sorry, but my underwear's in a bundle. I can't get the website. I can't get it going. And our webmaster goes, your underwear's in a bundle? And then I have to tell you something that I think is hilarious. The other day on Facebook, I saw somebody say, let's see, how do I set this up? I don't know what day it is, okay? I know when Monday, Wednesday, Friday is, but it's all mushing together. And I'm sure you can all agree with that. And it was something like, can I go back and wear the underwear I wore when I was a little girl that went the days of the week on it so I can keep straight what day it is? So I was gonna take some. Hey Margot, I was gonna take some granny panties of mine and put a big M on it or big F in it. I thought, no, that's just TMI. Okay, talk about TMI. This is really funny too. Back in the day of Simply Quilts, I would ship down quilts or I'd bring them down with me or whatever, a suitcase full of them. And Ian, who was our floor manager, who I adore, um, um, and the prom guy were getting out the quilts. Some of my granny underpants in it. I mean, oh my God, how embarrassing. So the next time I went down there, I got some really skanky thong stuff and stuck it in there with the quilts. So those are the things you don't forget about Simply Quilts. Okay, good morning, everybody. Let me tell you, we're going to talk about getting the perfect 1/4 inch today. And before I do that, I want to share some things with you. And the other thing is, if you leave a comment, I probably can go back and scroll if there are questions. This technology is super new to me. And like I said, I'm just kind of, John was rubbing my shoulders. I was like, ah, because it was all screwed up. Okay, so anyways, first of all, I go for walks every day with the weather willing. And yesterday I decided to walk to my mom's. Normally I walk along an arroyo. That's kind of the bike path and all that. But I was going to go walk to my mom's and just check on the yard and all that because we had a little disaster going on. And now my fabulous gardener has whipped it back into shape. But anyways, the first thing I saw when I was walking there, and she is 1.3 miles from my house, her home, was I saw 2 teddy bears in a window at Marilyn Fraser's house. It made me so happy. And actually, they were sitting on the roof. And I went, oh my gosh, there's teddy bears. I should have my eyes open more. Well, then as I continued my walk, you know, the little libraries that everybody has. Well, this one had books, but it also had canned food. And I thought that was absolutely fabulous. So if you have a little library, you might want to do that. And then on my mom's block, she's in the old section of town. She's in was in a Victorian cottage. Some little kids went around the block, and all of a sudden I'm walking, all of a sudden I'm going, whoa, whoa. And in front of every single front door and like on the sidewalk where you walk into the house, um, you saw this. And this was all the way around the block. It just that made my heart sing. And so I saw an American flag. I saw one little kid out there doing his art, and I kind of wanted to take a picture of him, but I thought that's kind of really creepy, so I didn't do that. And then this morning, I am embarrassed to say I got sucked in by Tiger King. Okay. And apparently there's a whole lot of stuff about that right now, that how it was supposed to be a documentary, but then they got in there and did like how they do the reality shows, you know, so some people are pretty upset. But I thought this was great. Look at this picture that somebody did on their front yard. Whoops. There we go. Wendy, go away. There we go. And it says on it, I fed him to the tigers. But look at the tiger over there to the left-hand side of Joe. I mean, like, wow, there's some serious art going on there. Okay, then I got some other questions, and bring them on. You guys are helping me come up with ideas, although the ideas are just coming very organically. I was throwing out a lot of product names on Wednesday because I was showing raw edge applique and finished applique. And somebody said, is there a place where you can go and just kind of get the download on the whole thing? And I got hold of our Quilter Select guy, and here is our website, Quilter Select. And then you can see in the upper left-hand corner, you see Meet Alex, and then you have products. And you can go to the products page, and then it tells extensively about each of the products. But what I want them to do, and I'll let you know when this happens, there's kind of a cheat sheet that would be a great PDF for people to be able to print out. I was hoping I could show that to you this morning, but that hasn't happened yet. So thank you. I can't remember who asked me that question, but I super, super appreciate that. All right. Then let me see. Oh, then people were asking about the quilt behind me, where to get the pattern. The pattern is not on TQS. It's on Alex Anderson Quilts, okay? And then if you go into the shop, you'll be able to see, I think there's even patterns or something, and it's on the top row. And the really great thing is that I don't have to ship it to you. I just have to approve the transaction, and you'll get the PDF in the mail. And then last but not least, we have new people coming on because of the 1995 for 6 months and checking us out. And for those of you who've been with thequiltshow.com for many a year, you know how much is there as far as just even in the show content, okay? And so I want to take you here. This is the home page. And then you go up to watch, and then when you go into watch, there's a show list. And so here is the show list right now. We're on series 26. In every single series, there's 13 shows except the first one. I think, is it 13 shows? Yeah, in every single one. So do the math on that. There's also a search function in the show area. If there's something specifically you're looking for, you can find it there. There is so much information. So for you new quilters, get in there, get busy, and understand that like applique, like we did on Wednesday here, there's 10,000 different ways to do it. And so you go in there, type applique, and you will be amazed at what comes up. And then also there's classrooms, and you can go in there and do that too. So let's talk about getting the perfect 1/4 inch. This has, a lot of you might know this stuff, but this question really burns in my mind because in one of these sessions in the past, somebody asked, why the 1/4 inch? And it was a new quilter. And I said, it just is. It's how it's mathematically all figured out. And close enough. Okay, I started garment making first in sixth grade. And when you're putting in a sleeve or you're putting in a neck or something like that, close enough is good enough. But in quilting, it can make or break the deal and the success of the quilt. And so I want to talk about how I tackle the 1/4 inch. And I'm going to talk like I'm a really tough sailor here. You know, I try my best, and even I get sloppy, okay? So Margot Clabo never gets sloppy. And she is watching right now. Sally Collins never gets sloppy. Yep, and we actually have her DVD available if you're a subscribing member. I mean, and a show with her. So anyways, let's talk first about your setup, all right? Let me get this. This is what I was having a problem with this morning, the panic. Okay, this is a fancy machine I'm working on. It's a Bernina 765, and it has a trillion fabulous stitches. And so in order to support the stitches, it has an extra wide throat plate here, all right? This is 9 millimeters. I believe a lot of machines have 7 millimeters. And then my Bernina, my older Bernina, has 5 millimeters, and that's the width of the whole thing. If it's over 5 millimeters, I would strongly suggest that you get a single hole throat plate. If when it's this wide, your fabric's just going to all bump around and it's just going to be ridiculous. So I always change it out. Okay, there we go. On Bernina, you just push this back button here and then it pops up. And then this just slides in. And there you go. So then I want to talk about the feet. All machines have the 1/4 inch foots, and they all vary a little bit. This is my favorite. It's the number 37D. Bernina also has one, and other brands that have a bumper guard here, kind of like bumper bowling, you know, where it's right here. And I telling you, I thought I had that foot and I could not put my hand on it. No big surprise in my life. The only time I use the bumper guard on the side, that foot, is if I'm strip piecing. Because I do pin, and I pin a lot. Maybe I need to do a whole thing on pinning. I'm a maven about pins. If I'm pinning, I'm a left-hander, I'm coming in this way, it will hit the bumper guard. And then Bernina also has a 97 foot that's a little bit wider on this side, and it's great with the wider feed dogs. But this is the one I learned on, the number 37. It is my go-to. So there we go. Let me put it on there. Then on my machine, I'm going to look up here. Yeah, you can barely see it. On my machine, right in front of this feed dog is a little indentation right here. Okay, that's my lead in. So when I'm sewing, let me get my presser foot down. When I'm sewing, I am not looking at the edge of my foot, my presser foot, because at this point it's too late. It's already underneath, and I know the needle's going to go up and down. So I align it to this little guy right out here. That is where my eyeball is, and then I scoot on through. So what you're going to want to do is, if you don't have that, I strongly recommend to take a ruler. I mean, it's the 1/4 inch is just so important. I can't begin to tell you. And then I'm going to put my needle down right on that 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to take some blue tape. Some people like moleskin. You can use anything. But what you're going to do is you're going to put this right there. Keep it off the feed dogs. And then that's my lead in. And if you wonder what all this garbage is, I got to figure out how to get this off. This was when I was sewing triangles, and I was using a square and then cutting, and I was using this line down here, but boy, that looks awful. So here we go. If I didn't have that thing there, I would use this as my lead in, and there you go. I consider my 1/4 inch foot as a suggestion. All right. Now, the other thing I love about this 1/4 inch foot, is the opening has a hole like this. So when I'm pinning, I can leave the pins in till the last minute and pull them out. I'm going to do a thing on pinning. I've just decided. Okay. So now let's talk about problems that can happen. I spoke about this the other day, and this is a la Sally Collins. When you line up your fabric on this side, I want to see blue. On this side, I want to see only white. Well, that's not happening. It's scooted. So it's really important to make sure that when I'm looking at the white side, I'm looking at white. When I'm looking at the blue side, I'm looking at blue. All right? And if it scoots like this, your 1/4 inch is going to get goofed up. I mean, that's fact. The other thing that people do is, probably see it better on this side. Okay, this is the beginning of my seam where my thumb is moving. Okay, here, I'm stitch, 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 stitch. Oh, I'm getting to the end and I trail off. And I think that is a common problem. I don't know what the deal is, but you want the end of this thing to look as good as up here. You don't want to trail off. And then the last thing you do is Sally suggests that you take two 1 1/4 inch pieces of fabric, sew them together, press, and then this measures 2 inches. And if it doesn't measure 2 inches, oh boy, I hope it measures 2 inches. Yeah, it does. If it doesn't measure 2 inches, you have to adjust what you're doing over here. Now, I want to talk a little bit about thread, if I may. And again, I will go back and I'll look at questions here. So when I started quilting, this is actually pretty darn funny, actually. When I started quilting, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, the thread that we used, okay, get over here, mister. The thread that we used was 100% cotton. And it was like really thick. It was on a cardboard tube. This is like 40 years ago. And it was beat in our brains that you must use cotton, because at that time it was things like House of Fabric and all that. And at off old tape, Goo Gone will take off the old tape. Thank you, Michelle, because that just looks like HELL, man. Okay, what is it? Okay, it was beat in our brains that you had to use this 100% cotton thread. And there was a reason for that, you guys, because back in the day, you would go to Fabricland or whatever. I hope they don't exist so that I don't get sued. And they'd have these bins of thread, like 25 cents for polyester. And it was just yucky, crappy thread. Okay, so then I'd say the thread revolution has come about in the last maybe 15-20 years, and I really attribute Bob Purcell from Superior Threads to be out there educating us about threads. I mean, there's so many to choose from, and so what do you use for what? In my opinion, there's no longer a one thread thing you go to. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be able to move. Okay, so then I'm trying to think of the history of thread. Then we all went to Egyptian cotton 50 weight, and there's lovely, lovely brands out there like Superior, like Orifil. I know you guys have that stuff, and I put it in the top of my machine and the bobbin of my machine. Now, whatever thread you use is going to greatly affect your 1/4 inch. So then there was a 60 weight polyester that came out that was designed for the bobbin. Okay, so the higher the number, the finer the thread. That doesn't even make sense to me. But so then I started using the 60 weight poly in my bobbin with my cotton on top. So, okay, that steps up accuracy a little bit. Boy, that kind of came out like a big fat slur. It's not even 5 o'clock. So then with Quilters Select, which is the brand I'm associated with it, is that if it were 60 weight were good, why not 80 weight? Okay, so our 80 weight polyester is called Paracotton Poly. It's like cotton, but it's polyester. It is so dang fine. It is so fine, like you can tell on the computer. Nice try, Alex. And I use this in piecing on the bobbin. I also use this 80 weight for binding. That's how strong it is, and that's how fine it is. It's fabulous. It hides like silk. So I use this on the bobbin, and then we came up with a thread that's a 60 weight, and it is a polyester core with Egyptian long staple cotton on the outside. I use that on the top of my machine. So I have the bobbin and I have the top. The reason I don't use, when piecing, the 80 on the bobbin and the top is because it's a pretty slick thread. And so when you go to the end, it might undo a little bit. Now, some people just love this like that, but I like the cotton outside on top and the 80 weight on the bobbin. So anyways, thread is so important. And one of the things that Bob did in his classes is he would kind of wrap the audience up in thread, and then he would have you guess the what the fiber content was. And I mean, purposely, he would use cheesy thread, but that was the lesson in itself because we couldn't tell apart some of the threads. You just want to use a high quality thread, and that will help your piecing experience. So I'm wondering here, gosh, I got someone from France. Let's see, how do I go over here and look? Yeah, Ellie, I remember being told I have to use cotton only. Yep, we were all told that, but that's not true anymore. You just want quality. So I'm looking here if there's other questions. Goof off, thank you. Oh my gosh, Alex, thanks. My new Elna throat plate has that 1/4 inch mark too. Never noticed it before. I know. I noticed it maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Okay, so this is a different subject, but the other day, joyously, you talked about a book called The New Quick and Easy Block Tool. Your husband ordered it. Good for him. All right. So here's the other thing. I want to. Okay, if you have any questions, put them up right now, and I'll see what I can do with that. I so love this, you guys. I so love that you're taking your time to be with me during, this whole isolation thing. So I mentioned that our mini group, the other in February. You know what? I don't need underpants that have the day of the week. I need underpants that have the month written on them. Are you guys losing track of time? It's crazy. So, for the Jean Wells class, I chose some pictures of bark, okay, from a book of hers. She copied it for me, okay? Look at this bark. Could you believe that's from a tree? Can you believe that's the colors in the quilt behind me? I had this hanging on my wall, and all of a sudden I look up and I go, whoops, this arm. That's it. Those are the colors right back there. So that got me pretty excited. I'll show you. Okay, you said the polyester will eventually cut through the thread. Not if it's good. It's not going to cut through the thread. I think a lot of that are misnomers. All right. Yeah, someone says yes. This is Friday, right? Oh my gosh. Do you guys want to see the next color combination I want to work with? Let me go get it off the board. When Jean was teaching the class, she had some samples, and this just absolutely drew me in like no tomorrow. I love this. Oh, that's kind of glary. Anyways, and then she had gotten these little fabrics, doodads and scraps, and I think that's really an interesting idea to take these doodads and scraps and then put them together and see if you like what's coming out there. So, what are some of the good quality threads? I'm not going to get into that because I'll miss somebody. Buy it from your local quilt shop. I have mentioned Superior, I have mentioned Aurifil, I have mentioned Quilters Select, but you've got Wonderfil. There's good threads out there. Just don't go to the 25-cent bin because that is not a good thread. All right. Can you explain the quarter? Oh, thank you. The 1/4 inch versus the scant 1/4 inch. When I was officially a spokesperson for Bernina, they'd say, well, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you want as far as feet and stuff like that? And somebody said, well, we want a scant 1/4 inch. And I said, no, we want a 1/4 inch. Because there's so many variables that go into it. Listen, if I use different thread on here and I sit down to sew, it's going to be a different situation. And that's why you just need to get it right. And probably the scant 1/4 inch came from when we had that big fat thread we were having to deal with. The other thing that a lot of people do too is, they'll overcut their pieces and then size them down. There's always that too. What was the weight number for the top thread? I love these questions. Yay. The top thread of mine is a 60 weight and it's Quilters Select. And for piecing, piecing, do I just use a basic color for piecing? Pretty much. I pretty much use a light gray, and or on my bobbin, I darn near always have this white on, or you could do an off-white, unless I'm doing a black quilt, and then of course I would trade that out. So I don't really worry about the color of my thread when piecing, unless the seams are going to be pressed open. If the seams are going to be pressed open, you're going to have thread that you're going to see. So if I were working on like navy blue and red, I would not want a white thread. I would want a navy blue or a dark gray or something like that. Okay, let me see. What was the weight number for the top 70? Are you still hand quilting? In my fantasy, yes, but in reality, no. But I used King Tut by Superior when I was hand quilting. That's what I used. Is the 80 good for hand applique? Yes, it's great for hand applique. And we have a bobbin ring. Let me get that. Boy, I'm glad I have real pants on and not my pajama pants, like a lot of the anchor people are doing right now. They got their suit on top and then they've got their whatever underneath. These are, for me, these are the 80 weight, all the colors, 40 colors. I use it for hand applique, well, I don't do hand applique anymore, but you can. Anything you could do with silk, you can use this for. If your machine has drop-in bobbins, we do sell pre-wounds. That doesn't work on my Bernina. Okay, where did you tape the presser plate? Where did you measure the 1/4 inch from? What you're going to do, Mary, is, let me go back here. You're going to take your ruler and you're going to, I got to get turned around here. I can't do this sideways. You're going to take your ruler, and then you've got your little 1/4 inch mark here on your ruler, and you're gently going to put your needle down on it. And then you're going to put the tape out here, because you don't want to get it on feed dogs either, right? So does that make sense? When you tape the presser foot, okay. Do you always use a straight stitch only throat plate? When I'm piecing, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Of course, when I'm doing machine applique and stuff, I've got to use the other one. And I do think that some of the machines come with single throat plate. Okay, Coates and Clark. I can't talk about it because I haven't sewed with it in forever. So, what is the shelf life of thread? I don't know. Okay, so Margot just said allow for the fold over. And the fold over she's talking about has to do with the thread that is in your machine. See, this is why Margot's so good. Let's see, I have a solid piece of fabric and the color is buffalo plaid, and I'm wondering, when hand quilting, what kind of pattern do you do for it? Oh, egads, I don't know. When I do a quilt, and I'm going to quilt it myself, I will always put it on my wall and look at it, and I will always consider, is the quilting really going to show? So if I don't think it's going to show, I'm an old school girl. I always go to crosshatch. I just think it's classic, it's beautiful, but you might want to pick some sort of repeating pattern, like clamshells or whatever, but without seeing it, I'm just throwing a dart with, behind my back. Okay, why do we have different throat plates? Because, Lena, if your throat plate is super wide, like this, it will, your fabric will get jammed down into it. And I believe in embroidery, you also use a single hole throat plate too. So what about silk for hand applique? It's hard to deal with, so I haven't used much of it. I heard it cuts the thread. It cuts, I think you mean the fabric. Silk, what silk does, I love silk. Absolutely love it. I'm not worried about it cutting the fabric at all, okay? It hides beautifully. The negative with the silk, and my 80 weight's a little bit like this, it's slippery, and so it will slide on your needle and all that. I remember on the quilt show, we had a guest on that showed us how to not have the fabric slide around in your needle, and for the life of me, I don't, remember who it was. Yes, you can always send me an email. Wait, do you add for turn of cloth? You're you're going to have to just figure it out on your machine with the fabric you're using and the thread you are using. And so it's a matter of that sewing that quarter of those two 1 1/4 inch strips together and seeing what happens. I mean, my batiks might act very differently than my capes. Okay. Um, so here we go. Thread on silk sewing. What Margot say? Put a knot near the needles on the eye. Really? Well, she knows her stuff. So, anyways, so let's see. What else? What else? Who's going to do something creative today? I'm going to tell you in all full disclosure, I've had a little trouble sitting down and sewing. I truly have. And so if you are, don't beat yourself up. I mean, it is what it is, you know. And Ozark has uploaded its 3rd season. That's a real gross, wonderful Netflix show to watch. Sorry, I meant 100%. Yeah, for its hand applique. What needle size do you use with the finer thread? That's a very good question. I was using a 70 and the thread was breaking, so then I went to top stitch, and I think it's an 80. That's what I'm using now, and it's fine. The other thing with the when I'm using a finer thread on top, thank you for that question, I will slow down my machine a little bit. I heard once that when your needle goes up and down, a thread will go in there 50 times before it makes it to your quilt top or to your piecing. So that's a lot of friction. So the other day I was feeling really cocky, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to speed this thing up, and that was a mistake. So yeah. So remember, you guys, here's the thing. Here's the thing you need to know. On the Quilt Show main page, if you scroll down, we are archiving all of these lessons, all right? And so you're going to maybe want to, if you've missed a day, you can go back and watch it. Ricky's days got a little confusing, but now they are Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday at noon California time. Let's see. I'll tell you what, if anybody's really bored, they can come clean out my cupboards. There you go. No, I guess we can't do that either. So you guys, have a wonderful day. Have a nice weekend. Again, turn off the news. It's just, and I think I'm going to go be making some face masks for John and myself to go shopping with. So you guys are the best. You keep me inspired. Thank you so much. And 60 weight thread, just use whatever needle you want. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to hit finish and we'll see what happens. Love you guys.